Hello, ladies and gentlemen. After the community's reaction on Chibi and My Day, I feel the need to air something out that's a recurring pattern on many gacha games. The content of this video may sound inflammatory and insulting, but I'll make it clear right now that I'm not blaming the players who think this way. This is a result of predatory practices from gacha games. Even those with slow power creep that are looked at with meta lenses aren't immune to this phenomena. We'll be covering emanators examples of this phenomena and some from Genshin Impact, the quote-unquote problem of balanced units. Let's define what a balanced unit is. A balanced unit is a character that isn't horrible or invalidates many characters within the current options. They exist within reasonable confines of the rules of the game, in numbers or utility. An example of this in HSR is Yun Li. She doesn't break any form of ceiling in any target count, nor is she noticeably cheap or expensive. She is a unit that's one unique property is to be consistent, but never the best option in any content. A pretty standard definition of a balanced unit. However, Yun Li is one of the most unpopular characters to run or to pull. Even putting aside external factors, Yun Li is a balanced character in a sea of sharks, released after Firefly and before Fei Xiao, who are broken characters under more specific parameters. Their versatility doesn't match Yun Li, but the numbers are so much higher for less effort and cost that there was a snowball's chance most people recommended Yun Li usage or pulling despite her upsides. A unit that gets this treatment of unanimous skipping is not as rare as you think. Rappa and Jade were similarly underhyped due to the performance gap only mattering for AoE, which was a rarity. Butil does big screenshot damage but offset by his target count issues and gameplay quirks. Even Aglaya is being skipped due to her specificity to Sunday and reliance on vertical investment. Now, why is this a problem for anyone that isn't a Yun Li fan or the other characters mentioned? Really nothing. The ones that weren't said are the problem. Over the past year, we had 4 notorious damage dealers: Acheron, Firefly, Fei Xiao, and the Herta, with Casteris coming soon probably taking that title. That is a total of 4 confirmed DPSs among 10. While their differences among each other are pretty different, which is good to diversify the meta, they continuously keep one-upping each other. More numbers with less cost, easier gameplay, more versatility. This amount of ceiling breaking becomes the norm, which isn't healthy for the game. For comparison, check Genshin Impact. What could be considered a ceiling breaker for Genshin DPS over the past year is Mavuika and Mualani, though it seems insane that both of these units still isn't directly better than the Jingliu Old Neuvillette, who has upsides in ease of use and team comp flexibility. Everyone else outside of those 3 in that time frame is pretty much working at roughly the same level of being able to clear with differences in team compositions through the elemental system. Not to mention they released twice as many 4 stars with pretty decent power level. This amounts to 2 ceiling breaking DPS characters out of a whopping 11 DPS characters. A game being balanced around 2 out of 11 DPS characters is straight up not sustainable, and thus the norm of damage dealers in Genshin isn't the Mavuikas or Neuvillettes who come rarely, but rather the Emilys and Clorens who are released often but are very balanced. You seldomly need a constellation for a character just to catch up in endgame because of this. Either way, HSR has twice as many ceiling breakers that release at very short periods of time with much less 4 stars. The supports and sustains by themselves aren't that big of an issue since all of them are pretty balanced characters. Ron Mei, HMC and Fugue for break, Robin for follow-up attack and DOT, Sunday for hyper carry and summon, and Chibi for the Herta. But even supports have this same issue. Jiao Chou is much like a Yun Li where you can slot him anywhere in any team comp but can never be the best outside of an Acheron team. He is balanced but was by far one of the most underhyped units because he was literally playing with fire among broken harmonies. Imagine if there was only one outright broken harmony and Jiao Chou was the expected power of a support instead. We would be at a much better spot. The expectations of support units being better is not a Fickle mentality. It's one of practicality because of power creep. And that's not to say that Genshin Impact doesn't have any. It's just that in HSR, there's a lot of rapid power creep. When nearly half the DPS are in a race to creep each other, with the other half not being able to get much of a say, people will start planning around that. When the norm becomes the DPS chart gets broken every 3 months, half the units are less valued. When the new ceiling breaker releases every 2 patches, the game gets a surge of massive revenue from the number adrenaline, enforcing statistic-based strategies from Hoyoverse, which is power creep. And when you have a fickle mentality that develops from being used to ceiling breakers, with enough influence you can sway the community to give less sales to balanced characters. In a self-fulfilling prophecy, the cycle of rapid power creep is born, and it could get so fast to the point of being out of control with no way to reverse it. Which leads us to now. We will have to wait and see how they can reverse power creep and follow a better formula. Simply releasing one standout meta unit a year isn't going to hurt as long as the game is balanced around the weaker majority. Let's be real, this is a multi-billion-dollar company. Maybe the endgame will be more stale, but it's not like they'll stop making money due to reruns being devalued over time. Common sentiment when mentioning this comes to a support of power creep, either the person saying it willingly knows it or not. Don't you want your favorite characters to be broken? Yes, it's human nature to want the things you like to be good. I want Shiori to be the best character because I really like her, and it would be nice if I could flex how much better she is compared to everyone else. But if the entire game ran on this idea, every character will start being the best and it becomes a hellscape of power creep, or a stale metagame. Speaking of which, lack of power creep makes the game stale. If everybody is the best, nobody is. As somebody that takes power creep as a challenge, it's what keeps me so interested in the meta. But this doesn't stop me from recognizing that power creep is not a good solution for forced difficulty. Being honest, I would rather prefer squishy bosses that have specific gimmicks. Now that would probably disincentivize vertical investment and needs you to pull more characters, but I do find that to be more creative than the number creep, and this problem is easily solved by 4 stars. This is largely the reason why I don't want an Imaginarium Theater in HSR. At least in Genshin, due to the roster count and free unit viability, it is a lot more feasible. And even then, Imaginarium Theater isn't a popular mode still, so maybe people don't actually want gimmicky bosses with roster checks. If Apoc Shadow had more valuable 4 stars, the elemental check wouldn't be such an issue either. Speaking of solutions, the solution to power creep. This is a loaded question. Character reworks past a certain point would throw power creep out of a window. But as HP will always rise, there will be scenarios where a unit will age without any reworks and get left behind. For now, the best solution emanators could do is put an immediate stop to HP growth or slow it down by 1% each patch. Rework characters slowly to make sure a good size of the roster can clear the current endgame mode if the bonuses line up. Be more creative with the bonuses instead of throwing more HP at it. Maybe mechanics that reward AoE, high energy, or frequent attacks. Nikador is actually a really good gimmicky boss if only his HP wasn't that high. And if the HP of a boss is low enough, it won't be an issue since more of the roster can clear it. After rehabilitating around maybe 75% of the roster, you can start hiking up the power creep a little and only do infrequent standouts like Genshin does. Can I guarantee that this balancing method will work? There's no guarantee, but it's a lot better than what they are doing right now, I think. Anyway, the point of this video is they need to stop focusing on broken characters and focus on the mid characters, or as we'd like to call them, balanced characters. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed. I coughed a lot while recording this, so I'm sorry if my voice sounds tight. I know that I've been outspoken with my pro power creep stance, but I do believe that Starrail focusing on the most broken units at the time is a really bad idea, when I think the alternative of something like Genshin, where there's only one broken character and you focus on everybody else that's weaker than them, is a much better model, I think. Anyway, I'll see you later. Bye bye.